Kashmir is totally a different thing, you know, as far as the Indian side is concerned. Only two things we are hearing that, oh, Kashmir is different, number one. Number second, that is it really happening in Kashmir. Well, we don't have, I mean, personally, as far as we are concerned, we don't have the videos of them. But I'm talking about institutions.
Then how do you actually pick up these cases and look at the possible criminality of individuals within it? So it's a real challenge, right? We don't really have that many documents. In terms of resources as well, to actually go out there and do an investigation that the police might be able to do. It's not really that easy for us to do, especially in Kashmir. So what we try to do is pick up documents through the course of from a crime to wherever it ended up. So normally in the context of these crimes, you have a family or the police can take cognizance themselves and a filing of an FIR. That's the first information report. The information we got from the family was that he was shot in the front part of his head. That's not any official document for the family said. So this is the case. Now we have two parallel processes taking place. And sorry, I think I forgot to mention, you know, in this whole trial process that I spoke about earlier, from the FIR to any court, you know, the army and the CRPF and others, they come on two occasions. One is sanction, just spoken about before. So if you prosecute someone, you get sanction from the Ministry of Home Affairs for the paramilitary and the Ministry of Defense for the army. So that's one level. And with the particular judgment, it's laid down that you have. So cognizance is not possible. The judge can't look at the case and decide if it's a good case of sanction or not. He has to seek it. That's one. Second, in the army and the parliament, you can seek a court-martial. So they come to the court, file an application, and say, we'll do this. We'll handle this case in a court-martial. And it's not absolute, so the judge can decide that he wants to proceed with it. He's referred again to the government. So there are the 2 points at which the army and the paramilitary get into this normal criminal court procedure.
So this is a meticulous and Chilean report. In any democracy across left to right, a democracy of this sort, with a state which is supposed to be the guardian of the rule of law, the state sovereignty is established by the fact that it will decide when that rule of law can be suspended, when those constitutional rights can be suspended. That is the sovereignty. So amidst all the anodyne, banal repetitions of we the people, this is what a state from the society does. The ways in which, in this situation in Kashmir, armed forces use informal networks and persons for their own benefit, including for illegal business dealings, and then subsequently disappear or kill inconvenient people. So you basically use this situation for your personal profit. This is what I mean by saying that the laws of the state produce and maintain networks of criminal activity. So particularly in a situation like Kashmir, we are able to use personal vendettas, personal gains, business dealings, and whereas you might have to, under normal circumstances, you corrupt business practices with a little bit of here you just get to do your witnesses and use the narrative of militancy. And so, for example, they say, the conclusion says, the story of the escape or release of a victim is perhaps the most perverse, as it seeks to play on the very hopes of the families of the victims, and they create false stories to release and escape in order to distract from the murder and their culpability in the murder. Now, where the judiciary comes into this is there is a very clear trail of documents that establishes where the person was, who the person was with, as was said by both because it's very clear. Any person looking through those documents can see who was the last responsible person who had this person in their control.
When I saw this report, I really admire the meticulousness and the amount of work that Minister said, this passionate collection of information that has gone into it. But somehow I started thinking about a scene that's always been seared in my memory from the film, The Battle for Algiers. There's a moment where this French army officer is facing a room full of journalists and human rights activists who are all sort of clamoring about human rights abuses that the French committed in Algeria. And he says, look, let me ask you one question. is Algeria a part of the French Empire or not? If it's not, let it go. If it is, and if you want me to keep it there, it's my job to commit human rights abuses. It's my job to torture people. It's not my job to be a human rights activist in Algeria. You know? Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, because it's not as though you can write or you can do some one spectacular thing that's going to take it forward. I remember when we traveled in the Narmada Valley, you would see Adivasi people planting their fields when they knew that they were going to be submerged in the monsoon. They knew that this was useless activity. But they said, we just have to do it. We have to do it. There's nothing else we can do. And I think, I'm not saying this was useless activity, but I think that so many of us can so easily dismiss. People who are outside struggle can easily be hopeless. They can easily say, "Arey kya fayda yaar? Kyun likha hai ye sab? Kya hoga?" You know. But those of us who are inside battles, we just have to carry on doing what we do. Sometimes with hope, sometimes without hope. But in order to keep the resistance, in order to keep our strength, in order to keep ourselves going, we have to do what we have to do. I think the great thing about this report is it is not a catalogue of victimhood. You know, it's not just another list of people who've been tortured and killed. But it goes some way. I mean, it could be called How to Run a Military Occupation instead of alleged perpetrators. Because, as people have said in many different ways, it's not just, the perpetrators are not just the individuals who actually picked up someone, or actually beheaded someone, or actually tortured someone. The perpetrators are the institutions themselves. They are, as Karthik said, doing what they were meant to do. They're not committing aberration. This is what it was designed for. This is how it's meant to work. So even if your position is that of a nationalistic Indian, why should you care? Because these institutions that are mentioned in this report, this lower judiciary, this army, this police, this CRPF, this BSF, this rot that has come out of 60 years of the occupation of Nagaland, of Manipur, of Kashmir, is a rot that has set into these institutions and is now being imported into the mainland. So if you go to Bastar, you'll meet not just the same CRPF institution, the same individuals who spent 10 years in Kashmir are now in Bastar. And they have come with all that violence, with all that viciousness, to do the same thing in Bastar. So you have rapists standing in the bazaar giving speeches while CRPF is saying कि पता नहीं मिल ही नहीं रहा है, बहुत inquiry किया नहीं रहा. They are there. The same lot of people are now going to destroy the very basis on which we think this country functions, on all its institutions. And that will be Kashmir's and Nagaland and Manipur's revenge on this absolutely colonial enterprise that India has become.